great to be here today. Thank you so much for inviting me. I think we've had such a passionate array of speakers already this morning talking about the importance of sustainability and what we do across logistics and cold chain. So really happy to have the opportunity to try and build on that with some of the practical work that we're doing in Lineage. So a little bit about myself. As Shane mentioned, I am probably the newest leader on the block. So I've worked in cold chain now for 8 months in this job at Lineage. We do, however, talk about Lineage years in a high-paced environment being kind of like dog years. So I actually feel like I've been around speaking to you all for longer than that. And prior to that, I was in third-party logistics for 22 years, so had the opportunity to get involved in areas like the removal of single-use plastic from supply chains for Sky, also linked to sustainability, the circular economy for some other technology customers, and also helping customers who were really pushing and driving. It's always good to have demanding customers, they make you better, but they were really pushing in terms of race to zero, etc. So it's a topic that I'm super passionate about and really happy to be here today to talk very briefly. So I think most of you know Lineage. We are one of the world's leading temperature-controlled logistics solutions providers. We're also significantly involved in the global food supply chain, so feel the responsibility to be a business that does good and acts with purpose. So for us, that's very much about transforming the food supply chain, eliminating waste, helping feed the world, and trying to lead from the front in terms of super important topics like this one. So I hope none of you have this question in your mind anymore after the fantastic speakers that we've had this morning. The time is now and we really must act. But just to make the point, I'm shamelessly stolen a little clip from the IPCC just to really remind ourselves just why this is such an important topic and what a role we play in it.
All life on Earth, from ecosystems to human civilization, is vulnerable to a changing climate. Scientific evidence now shows that the current human-caused global warming of 1.1 degrees Celsius is increasingly impacting nature and people's lives everywhere, despite efforts to adapt to the changing climate. More frequent and severe climate extreme events, such as heat waves over land and in the ocean, droughts and flooding, have caused widespread and pervasive impacts to ecosystems, cities and infrastructure, and limit the chances of a livable future for all. There is new knowledge that human-induced climate change caused these destructive impacts, or makes them more likely.
So, some more good reasons, if that wasn't enough, in terms of why we should act now as an industry. Certainly we're seeing, and I'm sure you all are too, that all of our stakeholders are really pushing us to act and to change. So rightly, it's demanded by all of our customers, starting with the very big ones, but it will come as well from the medium-sized and the smaller customers. They have their own ESG plans, they have their own commitments, and we, as providers in this industry, are a really core part of how they will be able to achieve their needs. This was touched on earlier, but people want to feel passionate about the company they work for, and they want to believe that the company is trying to act for future generations and to really make a difference. So we certainly find that it's much easier to attract people into our business, which is super important in the industry that we're in, if we act with purpose. So another good reason. And as we're all seeing, there's going to be more and more, rightly, there's going to be more and more reporting requirements on this important topic, because the more that gets measured and monitored, the more action that is driven out of that. So a huge priority and something that we all need to make some practical changes on now. So specifically from a Lineage perspective, we are really focused partly because of the customer point, partly because, as we all know, what we do is super energy intensive. It's the second highest expense across our business, and really important that we look at ways of minimizing that if we're going to do our bit. We feel the responsibility as a global organisation that has such a significant chunk of the global food supply chain to try and leverage our scale and really take the lead. We have signed up to the Climate Pledge, which I'll touch on a bit later on. So that's basically saying that we will be carbon neutral by 2040, so earlier than the UK target. And then we are still working on, but developing an ESG plan that makes that a reality. As we all know, the details and making sure that everything adds up is quite a complex area. Another topic that's already been touched on this morning, but energy security has very much been at the forefront of our minds over the last year or so. And clearly we need to be able to operate as a business. So the more ways we can find of really improving our use of energy, reducing our use of energy, the better we shall be as we have scarcity problems. So what have we done? We started back in 2021 by signing up to the Climate Pledge, which is a really big step and really gives us a date and a bias to action to deliver that. We're proud to now be the 13th biggest producer of solar energy globally, so that's also super helpful for us. We have achieved a 33% energy reduction across our business since 2015, so that's the equivalent of powering about 55,000 households, just to scale that. And we have also committed that as of this year, we're going to report on our controllable areas, so Scope 1 and Scope 2 in terms of carbon emissions. But we felt like we needed to think about it a bit more broadly. So there's some big projects that I'll touch upon, but we've come up with a strapline within Lineage called A Million Little Things, which is basically saying, touching on the points that were raised earlier, what all of us do every day, driving electric cars, and all the small things that we all do are really going to count. And actually, we aren't going to move the needle without attacking it from every angle and doing all the small things. So we've been looking, aligned to the Million Little Things, at how we truly reimagine sustainability standards and very, very keen to collaborate and work across the industry and share that thinking. It's important that we don't think as individual companies. So one of the key areas is solar and really powering our business. So we've been investing hugely with support from some of you in this room in terms of our solar energy. So we're now delivering 108 megawatts in the US and 34.3 across Europe. From a UK perspective, we have solar on 12 of our sites, and we've gone from the big installations. We've managed to measure so we've got big installations on 3 of our sites, and we can measure that's 500 tons of carbon, or the equivalent of 21,000 trees that's being saved. So we've put that at the moment in Scotland, Peterborough and Hayward. Against all evidence the contrary in terms of how sunny it is in Scotland, we decided to go for it, but that is starting to really work for us, which is fantastic. The other area that's kind of harder to get your head around is really, again, this has been touched on already, but the efficiency of all of our infrastructure. So unlike wine, what we find is that our buildings don't really improve with age, and we've been making a few acquisitions recently. So we've taken on a few really old buildings, and we've had to really think about what we do to move the needle and make them more energy efficient. So there's a lot for us about retrofitting, really optimizing what we've got. So we've implemented, through our energy team, waste walks. Really obvious stuff, I know, but actually it is making a difference. So even when we thought that we had everything set up in the right way, we are finding that if we look at things enough, we can find things that need changing. So we'll literally check all the seals on the doors. We'll check the evaporators and make sure that the defrost regime is working. We'll check the condensers. And literally just walk around every single part of all of our buildings, and obviously linked as well to our load shedding. Upgrading. So our site in Bells Hill unbelievably, he was older than me, actually. So when we talked about the fact that it was getting harder and harder to maintain, and you know, it was some of the parts were getting end of life, I could sort of relate to that a little bit. But we moved from basically we moved it to a modular system, and we're seeing with support from STAR, and we're seeing about 20% energy savings now from using the previous very old refrigeration system. So a big investment, but really, really good. A smaller one, but also really powerful, is that we've installed LED lights across all of our sites, which makes a huge difference. So the other dimension to our business, as well as storage, is clearly transport. And we've heard a lot of really interesting facts today in terms of just how important it is that we get it right in transport. And that's very much where we are. So I had it down as 14%, and there's probably different stats that you can use, but however you look at it, it is an important part of the overall total of global emissions. So again, we're working on a roadmap. So there's really obvious points around transport. So how do we really optimize the routes so that we're not unnecessarily driving extra miles? So moving, you know, for us, what was quite a manual process in terms of doing our planning to using optimization software. A review of the network and doing that far more regularly. So not kind of driving around in a way that we've just always done. Maximizing our load fill, so really trying to drive consolidation around our network. Particularly, we have some bigger customers that are across multiple sites. So we've set ourselves targets, and we've been really pushing with our customers to try and incentivize them to help us get to the point that we are really filling up each load that goes out. We've done some fantastic trials with some of you in the room that have been trying to strong arm me into making a purchase today, but we've seen some really good results in terms of batteries, solars, having generators on board. Haven't really reached a conclusion as yet in terms of what's the right way to move, mainly because we end up with range anxiety for all the driving around that we do, but it's fantastic to see that technology getting better every day. We're looking at kind of electric tractors and rigids, and we also have a compressed natural gas trial underway in Scotland, where we've been fortunate that there's a store really near our site, and that's giving us some really interesting benefits at the moment. And I love this term, electric goats, we've implemented in the US, so essentially to do a lot of our yard movements. So to summarize, this is a huge priority for us, something that I'm passionate about personally, and we are across our UK business and across our global business. We've signed up to the Climate Pledge. We are very focused across our business on a million little things. We are very focused on making sure that we have solar energy, that we keep checking and upgrading where we can the efficiency of our infrastructure. We do our waste walks, and we finalise our plan for transport. And I'm super pleased that the CCF have brought us all here together on such an important topic, and I hope this is just the start of us being able to collaborate across our industry. So really keen to work together with the CCF and with all of you in this room, because, you know, from my perspective, doing so is critical for the planet, it's critical for all of our businesses and for the future and for next generations in terms of personally. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claire, and thank you for that overview of all of the things, just some of the top line of the things that you guys are doing as a business. I'm really struck by the a million little things. I think that's a really compelling way of putting it. How are you delivering that with your people? Is there any sort of practical ways in which you're sort of rolling that out around the sort of different departments and teams?
Yeah, it's a really great question that we're quite focused on at the moment, because we haven't done as much as we could actually to really get our people engaged in that, because I think it's a fantastic strap line that we've only come up with fairly recently that we can really get everybody behind us on. So yeah, no, great question.
Cool. Has anyone got some questions for Claire while we're doing? I think the the commitment to being net zero by 2040 is a big ambition, and I think LINEAGE is at the point now where it has the kind of scale to, if it achieves that, really drive the whole of the sector forward. How does, in broad strategic terms, is it that sort of push and pull factor you talked about, which on the one hand we have to do this because the customers are wanting it, versus we see other advantages? Where does that sort of fit, do you think, in terms of the thinking? Where does the balance fall in terms of making a decision to do that, to make the 2040 commitment, and where do you think the best business opportunities will come, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super helpful being pushed by customers because that forces action, right? And you know, we all have business ambitions and objectives, and the more we're all being pushed in the right direction, the more we'll go there. You kind of hope that we'll all go there because it's the right thing to do, but the right thing to do at the moment has a big bill. You know, we look at the options on transport, and most of them at the moment, I'm sure it will come down, but they're about 5 times more expensive. So it's a hard commitment to make, and you know, with a kind of long-term end game. But yeah.
And I guess my last question, unless there's any other questions in the room, is obviously a lot of people here are providing equipment and solutions and services that potentially will help you on your journey in different choices. What are the things you're specifically looking for from them in terms of how they can sort of make sure they're matching what they're bringing forward to your goals? What are the sort of things that you would be sort of praising?
Mainly get the price down, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's challenge us. You know, keep coming with ideas, even if they seem crazy, because sometimes if you take the compressed natural gas example, right now we couldn't roll that out across our fleet, but you know, what a fantastic thing that happens to be near one of our sites. So I think it's just keep pushing, keep challenging, keep innovating, and you know, we have a really open mind, and we'll talk to you, and bring the price down, because that would be super helpful when I'm putting in requests.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you.